Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
He struggled as he tried.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here on this weekend's edition of the program. I Ibu Yagmofo, send a big thank you to you. It's interesting how time flies. It's end of week already, or what we normally would call a weekend. But in all, we stay grateful because life is first. Everything else follows as secondary. Hopefully you made the most of your week, and today being the last day of it, you're looking back with some sense of fulfillment, knowing that it may not have been perfect as we know it, but at least you achieved something meaningful from it. Well, life is dynamic, but we're excited knowing that for most people, they can at least take today off, either altogether or in parts, so they can also do something away from the hustle and bustle or from the the work life as we know it. So welcome to this weekend, and it's a one-man show today, as is always the case. I'm in for my colleague Ramsey Noah Agbo, who is not here today. But basically, we're going to look at some of the big stories from the week. It has been eventful Monday through Friday, and it kind of is where many persons think our attention should be turned to. But challenge is that there are several other issues that we'll be looking at today because, I mean, all of these stories just keep evolving. Some of them we can't talk about apparently because they have become subjects of litigation, all right? But if you follow the news, if you have done that in particular in the last few days, you should have an insight what I'm talking about. But in all, the goal is to make Nigeria a better place, a safer place, a more prosperous nation for people to live in and be able to do whatever it is they're pursuing for themselves, for their community, and of course, indeed, for humanity. Ultimately, we'll be looking at the Kano issue today. It has been here for a while. I mean, the tussle over the Kano Emirates. Today, it is this emir. Tomorrow, it is the other emir. We are seeing, if you like, a litany of litigations, court orders here and there. Some of them, some people, particularly politicians, have referred to as black market injunction and what have you. But in the final analysis, the question is, does it not challenge the authenticity and so on and so forth of the Nigerian legal system, the country's judicial system? Look at what the IG said, for example, in the course of the week, that look, the judicial system of this country, according to him, in his exact words, is sick and needs help. And he said his position was based on the fact that it was high time Nigerians stopped blaming the police alone for the problem in the legal system of this country. But let's cut right to the chase. We all know that a good number of policemen are not only well trained in terms of how to do their work, best practices in the business of policing. We also have many of them, particularly top-ranking officers, who have a robust background in law. I mean, we know many police officers who are lawyers, called to bar, full-fledged legal practitioners and all of that. I mean, even though they are still within, the employ of the Nigeria police. But the question is, while the police IG himself, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, now says that, look, you can't put the blame entirely on us. Is it not also fair to say that, well, why it's not a blame game, we should also take the time and dispassionately look at some of the other concerns regarding the legal system, the judicial system altogether in this country? We'll have to deal with issues around statements that are taken under duress. I mean, you bring a suspect to court, at least that's what they are called within the circles of the police. You know, you bring a suspect to court, all right, over whatever charges it is, and then the suspects are all of a sudden says that, well, the statement that you're reading in court is mine. However, it was obtained under duress. And you know, there's the Evidence Act in Nigeria, for example, that also makes very clear provisions, all right, about how these things should be done. So how do you obtain the evidence, I mean, the statement of a suspect? Does it have to be by force? In fact, the law even provides for a suspect to decide not to give a statement until their lawyer is present, for example. That's also there. But we have seen cases where the police would obtain these one way or another, I mean, extrajudicially. We've seen that happen, for example. How do we address those issues? Now, let's also be clear. There is no perfect policing system in the world, not even in America, for example, because that's where our attention always turns to. The NYPD, that is the New York Police Department, for example, is not perfect. The LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department, is not perfect. However, there probably are things we can also learn from them. In recent years, in the case of America in particular, we've seen the body cam facility, for example, which has been able to uncover and unveil cans of worms again and again. Look at the I can't breathe scenario of a few years ago, for instance. It was because of the body cam that we're able to find all of that. Are we saying every person in the Nigeria police, I mean rank and file, should wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden wearing a body cam? That's not necessarily the point. It's a way of saying that we must be responsible enough to ask ourselves, is it not possible that whatever we want to achieve as a country, regardless of the units in that country, including the police, that another country has already accomplished, and therefore we should learn from them? We may not have to copy them wholesale, but there are elements we can copy in terms of modeling from them. For example, we need to learn that. And the Attorney General, and I mean, he's the man who also doubles as the Minister of Justice in Nigeria, Lateef Agbemesin, did say just a few days ago, and he was particularly talking to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. He said, look, you're doing a great job. I mean, 21 years down the line, no doubt about that. However, you have the tendency to rush through investigation. And what that always ends up doing for you is you wind up with sloppy, not thorough investigation, not thorough outcomes. Because what you do for the most part is media trial. You would have already taken in the suspect or the person against whom allegations have been made before you have even gone to the media before you start now doing your investigation. How do you arrest somebody and you say you are doing investigation? You are going to charge a person in court and blah, blah, blah. Why don't you already have an overwhelming body of evidence against that person in first instance? So the AGF was clearly saying that, conversely, what the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI in the United States, does is to, first of all, take the time, that's the operative term, take the time, do thorough background checks, get all of the evidence, put the facts and figures together in such a way that when you put all of this material in front of this person who is being accused, they'll be so overwhelmed that they can't gainsay whatever it is you are accusing them of. And that's the reason you see that quite a number of cases, you see, the FBI would arrest somebody at JFK Airport in New York, for example, delay the person there for a couple of hours and let the person off on the grounds that we couldn't find anything strong enough to hold against the person. But in our case, we keep the person in custody, we go to the media, we go to X, we go to Facebook, we go to traditional media, we're talking plenty. We are also compromising the process by ourselves. And then the person finds a leeway, and next thing you know is the case fizzles out. Nigerians quickly forget, as we say, and then move on to the next issue, and the cycle continues. So how do we fix all of these problems? Because these are issues that we must deal with going forward. But we will cycle back to the Kano scenario, which actually is an ongoing development, even though it came to a head in some sense just yesterday. Some gentlemen will be joining us to talk about what the history has been with the Kano Emirates and what particularly are the elements as it stands today between Emir Sa'adu Bayero and Lamido Sanusi II. How is it that we have, in a manner of speaking, as it now is the de facto situation, two emirs in Kano Emirates? And then we jump right away from that to also look at how pivotal the Kano politics is in this narrative. Some gentlemen have been also named to be the key actors in all of this. But what does it mean ultimately for the good people of the great state of Kano? We'll talk to you about that when we're done with looking at the headlines from across our national dailies. Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, let's get it on the road for you. Headlines from across our national dailies. Today, we begin with The Guardian, newspaper quite loaded as always this Saturday morning. Let's see what it says here. We begin with the headlines above the nameplate. Top left corner with a picture of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. It says... Tinubu, that is the kicker, strengthening investment ties with France despite Sahel Africa logouts. This conversation is a bit tricky to have because of the nuances involved in it. Just for perspectives, at a time when you find neighbors of Nigeria, right, including Niger, for example, Burkina Faso and Mali, cutting ties with a country like colonial France. And then Nigeria is turning attention to them. I mean, quite an irony. This is not to put up a critique. It's a way of saying we need to, as it were, spark inquisitive about this whole thing. How is it that, on the one hand, a few countries around you, your neighbors, right, geographically speaking, saying, look, we're done and dusted, we're moving on to something else. We're realigning, as they say in international politics, where Nigeria is reaching out with a handshake and feeling excited about it. So questions have been asked about, first off, what is in it for Nigeria? What does Nigeria stand to gain from all this? Because there is no controversy around it. Every country comes to this kind of conversation with their self-enlightened best interest at heart, all right? So France has never been equivocal about their own interests. So what is the self-enlightened interests of Nigeria? What did President Tinubu take to Paris this last time, for example? What did he bring back? And then what are we going to get going forward? These are concerns that Nigerians have had. So across platforms, you see very intense, vehement conversations, analysis, and what have you going on about all of these issues, especially given the fact that in about 6 weeks, say maximum 7 weeks, there's going to be a new president at the White House in the U.S. that is talking about the person of former President Donald Trump, who is going in for his last 4-year tenure. And there are those who say that, look, the U.S. policy under Trump will apparently not be in the overall interest of Nigeria, to say the least. Therefore, what Nigeria is doing with this sort of handshake with France is to wake up early, if you know what that means, in such a way that we're not caught napping as a country by the time Trump's policies are put on the road at full throttle. But whatever that means, we need to be clear as to what we are looking at so that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot on account of this decision that we're taking today. But we have a few more headlines from The Guardian for you, still above the nameplate. One here says how Sokoto government is changing state's water supply narrative. That's according to Machindo. You'll find that story and its details on page 10. This is an exclusive interview, by the way, for you to read up this weekend. But then there's a big story on the front page of The Guardian as well. It says why people with mental health challenge deserve better attention. You see, this is again hard not to crack, because as it stands today, we still are struggling to understand what the basics, the elementary aspects of mental health are, because of where we're coming from. Cultural issues, traditional factors, religious concerns and things like that. Somebody jokingly asked a couple of months ago, if you were the supervisor in a unit, you're not even the MD, for example, or the CEO, you're just the head of a unit, and then one of your downlines, that is one of your subordinates, calls you up and says, look, I'm not sure I can make it to work for 2 days. I think I have mental health issues. I need to take you can see I'm already laughing because it sounds funny, but it is not funny. Lately, look at the index. You see that there's been a steady increase in suicide cases in Nigeria. It wasn't like that. I remember my mom would have conversations with her friends back in the day. They would laugh over children who said they were tired, they were overwhelmed, because they felt you are a young child, you're just in secondary school, you don't have any responsibility. How can you be overwhelmed? What are you thinking of? What's putting you under pressure? Nobody looks up to you for survival. You don't cater to anybody. In fact, you are even being looked after. But that was many years ago. Today, those dynamics have changed in ways that are remarkably radical. So mental health is not something to play about, because it affects everyone. If the breadwinner in a family, for example, has to deal with mental health problems, it means that family, by extension and implication, would also have to deal with that same problem. Therefore, we have to take it more seriously. The ministries of health across states, the Federal Ministry of Health, all of the agencies whose mandates are geared towards providing better care, for example, must also make the investments, put in all the resources, vital resources that are needed. And then, of course, families, communities must also play. It's not just about the cultural and the traditional factors of our country. They are also about the human health, because once people are challenged regarding their mental health, for example, it's going to affect everything, even their colleagues at work, because it means that if somebody breaks down on account of mental health, the question is, what do we do? The job must go on, the work has to be done. How do you close that gap? Because it is one man down situation that you're having. So we need to pay attention to that. In the meantime, read up those details on pages 8 and 9 of these Saturday's edition of The Guardian newspaper. And as The Guardian always does, it has infographics on the front page of it today with a picture of psychiatric hospital and all of that. But reading the details will give you better insight. Let's take it down a little. A few more headlines for you. When will national grid collapse? Then, of course, you read that up on the back page of the Guardian, the very back page of it. When will our national grid collapse? It sounds a bit offensive, but it is to just stir your curiosity to find out what exactly is it about national grid. Recall that recently we've had those cases so badly that just give us a look, let the worst happen already. Because of the incessance of collapse of the national grid. We had 3 in 5 days, we have 2 in 24 hours. I mean, for many people, it can't be worse than that. So when somebody writes an article, an opinion, and says, when will our national grid collapse? It should make us go to bed all night to find a solution by the time we wake up the next morning. All right, but whether we're doing that or not is left to be seen. All right. Lastly, here we have one that says tributes galore as renowned Islamic scholar Muhyiddin Ajani Bello passes on. The president, for example, has also condoled with the family and the entire Muslim community in this country. All right, that's all from the Guardian today. Let's turn quickly to the Punch newspaper. On the Punch, we'll begin with the star story for you. The here is tax reform. Northern senators divided as stakeholders form panel. One rider comes with that headline. It says lawmakers give conditions to back bills. What are those conditions? Well, you will do well for yourself if you pick up a copy of the Punch newspaper today to read up details on page 4. Let's move on to a few other headlines here. Scammers forge CAC certificates as Nigerians lose millions to fake declutter pages. Okay, what's more here? People always ask if we are triplets. Where my siblings born same month, day. And then M. Jesha Waterfall, a tourist gem in ruins as neglects persists. That's a tourist, an otherwise tourist attraction there. A hookup has dangerous consequences. Ayo Adesanya warns young girls. Hookup has dangerous consequences. Ayo Adesanya warns young girls. Now, for starters, especially Gen Zs, Ayo Adesanya is an old actress. When I mean old, I'm saying that to say that she's been in the African movie industry, particularly Nollywood, for a long time. She came from the 90s. So as someone who has been there, done that, as they say, I mean someone who has had this experience in movie making, entertainment, showbiz, what have you, comes out to speak like this, she's got to be taken seriously. So she's saying to young girls that hookup has not just consequences, dangerous consequences. We've heard about, nasty stories in recent times. People being picked up, so to speak, on Facebook, on different platforms, and then the next thing you know is they can't be found, or a few days down the line you find their trunk somewhere, no head, and things like that. Some have gone on missing, no word about them. Parents are traumatized, family in disarray over the disappearance of their loved ones. So please, we have to be careful. We can't know people in and out, but we must be able to be, there's a word that lawyers always use, circumspect, all right? You have to be circumspect about people you don't know from before now, people you're just meeting for the first time. You have to be careful because in the end, we can't do anything about spilled milk, if you know what I mean, right? So please, let's be on the lookout at all times. There's a headline at the very foot of the page this morning here. It says, police demote assistant commissioner, sack 19 others for misconduct. That's the Police Service Commission, PSC, that came up with that in the course of the week. But let's move things a bit higher up for you on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Here it says, Farotimi Afe Babalola demands proof. Police file fresh charges. Now, the lawyers to Afe Babalola have said that, look, if Mr. Dele Farotimi can prove that all of those allegations he made, as weighty as they are against the person of Chief Babalola, all right, then he can be let off. So that's where we are right now. We are not going any further because, like I mentioned earlier, this is a matter of, it's now a subject of litigation, so we can't do much about that. But let's move ahead real quick and see a few other headlines for you. Yuletide, Dangote marketers strike supply deal. NNPCL exports to Dubai. The kicker is Yuletide, Dangote marketers strike supply deal. NNPCL exports to Dubai. Why Nigerian-born Adegboyega's deportation was approved, UK judges. But the man has said, look, I love London. London is my city. Don't be distracted by my detractors, as politicians would say. So he says that there's no cause for alarm. Everything is under control. However, we know for a fact that, the stories out there, confirmed, authenticated, that the UK authorities have decided that we're deporting you, no going back on that, and we wait to see what happens in the days ahead. Of course, there's a protocol for these as well. Toby Adegboyega has been a pastor of a church in London. Yes, not just in the UK, in London, the very heart of London. He's the cousin of the Boyega guy who is the Star Wars superstar, as it were. And he's been in London for quite a while, and he's an influencer in his own rights, and has come with all the controversies you can imagine. But now, all of these have taken another twist altogether with this deportation announcement. Let's take a quick break, everyone. We'll still have a few more papers for you when we return. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
The Saturday Vanguard is our next port of call, everyone. Let's turn right there to see what we have for you, okay? We'll begin with the headlines about on here. Is a kicker. It says Nigerians pass verdicts on judiciary. It performed better under military governments. There's a writer there that says suggest ways to save it, regrets its failing our democracy. That's on page 10. And then Farotimi versus Afe Babalola. That's a kicker for you. A bone of contention, how Farotimi's book became a bestseller amidst defamation saga. Quite a twist of fate, some sort of dramatic irony you probably want to say. Why Tinubu may be a one-term president. Why Tinubu may be a one-term president. Ologbodio says PDP gone comatose, not dead. Politicians always, they're good with semantics. They find their way around words a lot. He says his party, the People's Democratic Party, it's not dead, but it's comatose, all right, which means there's hope that after this intensive care unit experience, the PDP will be back to sound health. That's me paraphrasing. However, you can read up those details on page 12 of this Saturday's Vanguard newspaper. Let's see the star headline for you with a kicker that says tax reform bills. North re-strategizes as regional crisis looms. Quite a bunch of riders following that headline. The first one here says Northern Democrats raise panel to review bills in 7 days. Senate reps take contrary stand while reps suspended debates indefinitely. Northern lawmakers mount pressure. FG sensitizations is late. Kebbi Commissioner, tax reforms will protect poor people. Director General of the National Orientation Agency says. But this divergence of opinions and perspectives itself is already a challenge. Some things were not done at first, but better later. Let's address those issues now because we've got to move past this. We can't be here for too long. Besides, politicians have 2020 think about it anyway. So this is just a phase, and it's a matter of time. We will be, we'll be right over it. Then there's another headline here that says ex-reps member backs Tinubu. And then the writer tells him to subject tax bill to a referendum if NAS shoots it down. Regrets some states not creative, only banking on FG allocations. Again, that is the elephant in the room. Some of us don't want to talk about it. Some of us just feel, well, let's talk about it on the surface level. Let's just scratch it. Let's not get to the root of it. But you see, we can't continue to postpone the evil day. It's one of the reasons we're here as a country today. We would have been doing way better than these 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago, but because we would just not want to find the balls to tell ourselves the truth, and we're still here. All right. Then we have a few more for you. It says a Danfo Letters page debuts today. Celebrating Pastor Chris Oyakhilome. There is a story around that as well. And then you have several articles you probably should read when you look at the foots of the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Let's Independent, all right, on a Saturday. Let's take a look at the Saturday Independent for you. The star headline first. It says how poverty, insecurity worsen gender-based violence in Nigeria. That is credited to the United Nations and other critical stakeholders. The writer says 1 woman killed every 10 minutes. That's a report for you there. All right. What more do we have? If you move up the look at the stories above the headline. It says, we don't want Kaduna refinery to be like Port Harcourt's. RY youth want Kyari. So what exactly do these youth want? As long as what they want aligns with what the country desires, why not, by all means, let's go there, as they say. But the NNPCL has to midwife this the right way. So just like these youths have mentioned, we don't find ourselves in same sports with regards to Kaduna as we have seen in Port Harcourt the last couple of years, right? Oyetola orders back Coast Guard bill at NAS public hearing. They say that bill is going to become a basis for turnaround for the blue economy of Nigeria, and we can't wait to see that happen. I visited a brothel every day for 2 weeks to fit into Oloture role. Who is saying that? Omowumi Dada. I visited a brothel every day for 2 weeks to fit into Oloture role. I mean, whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. You've got to, not just take the role. You've got to look the part, be the part, act the part. All right. You can't do that without actually going the whole hog to make it happen. One time, one of Nigeria's finest actor on the international scene was talking about how that when he had to play a role in a movie one time, 12 years a slave, he had to go to some extra length. He had to even study some certain stones just to be able to interpret that role very well. It's how it works, all right? You've got to bring excellence. You've got to bring class to whatever is committed to you in such a way that it becomes hard once you have raised the bar to that level. Nigerians make us proud every day, all day, regardless of the sphere of influence where they find themselves. Let's go tied up on the independence real quick for you. All right. What else we have? It says Rhapsody of Realities to reach 8 billion people with message of hope. That's Pastor Chris there talking. That's almost the entire word, because as of today, the numbers say we have just a little over 8 billion people on earth. So if Pastor Chris says the goal is to push Rhapsody to 8 billion people, that's almost like a cosmic kind of objective. All right, let's see something else here. Why Taraba may soon become a desert, General Faransa. Why did he say that? All right, so read up for yourself on page 19 of the Daily Independent today. Northern Democrats established technical committee to review tax reform bills. NCCPC, that's a kicker. Airpeace rise presidency over alleged exploitative fares. You can read up those details on page 7 for yourself on the Daily Independent this Saturday. We have 2 more papers to go. The blueprints, that's our next port of call. Let's see what the blueprint has for us, especially in this blue economy. All right. Above the name mast, that's our first headline. Tinubu running through government of national unity. That's Soludo, the governor of Anambra State. They're talking, who we understand was in Abuja yesterday to address some of the infighting in his party, ABGA. Recall that there is an election, off-cycle election in that state next year. So this fight is not unconnected with that electoral event. All right. What more do we have? We have one here, left corner of the paper. That's the blueprint. Says Basket Mouth accuses Nollywood producers of diverting funds. We don't monitor political parties to winch hunt them, INEC. And then when you take it further down, the Star Story says consumer rights violation. Nigerians jubilate as FG probes airlines, banks, telecoms. Long overdue. I mean, the anti-competition regulation or process is important. We've seen it across Europe. We've seen it in the US, across even, the entire North America, for example. And African countries are beginning to now show that we can do the same. You can't have the big pharma, pharmaceutical companies. You can have telecoms. You can have the banking industry. You can have the aviation sector. All of them exploiting citizens. Just making them scratch their skin, in the manner of speaking, just so they can afford goods and services that are essential to them. Yes, everybody blames it on hardship. Everybody blames it on inflation. Everybody blames it on the fact that the naira is getting weakened against the dollar. But is the action we take commensurate with the realities on the ground? That's the question. So if the FCCPC now says that it's high time we took a look very critically at these issues, these complaints that Nigerians are lodging every day, then so be it. And we are happy that we're here. It's not woo-woo, but it's a good place to start from. All right, so let's move further a little and see what more we have. 2 more riders with that headline here. One says, impose punishments to deter further infractions. That's activists. They're telling the FCCPC to say, look, impose sanctions, all right, against errant operators and service providers so that the message will be clear to all. All right. The second one says many Nigerians lack resources to contest financial injuries. That's according to Ajasin. That's an obvious truth now, isn't it? All right, let's move on. Domestic equity market rebounds, gains 59 billion naira. That's the capital market there. What's more, Nigeria's justice system weak, sick. That's the IG. He said that, yesterday about the judicial system in this country. All right. What's more do we have here? Why varsity poly graduates can't find jobs. Why varsity poly graduates can't find work. That will be a curious read. All right. But then let's move it a little further here and see one more before we're done altogether. It says Shetima launches 2024 Nigeria Economic Report assures on inclusive growth. One more to go this morning. That will be the Nation newspaper. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper quickly. Enough of the blueprint. Our last paper, the Nation newspaper. As the star story tells us, Naira rebounds as speculators dump dollars. Four riders with that headline. The first one says closes at 1,515 naira to the dollar in parallel market. Well, that's on progress, about 200 naira down. At the point, recall, it was as high as 1,710 naira. So what we have now is about 195 naira decline, which is, well, commendable. We hope it continues to plummet so that naira will gain further because we understand the 2025 budget tentatively is pegged by way of benchmark at 1,400 naira to the dollar. 1,400 naira to the dollar, given the prevalent economic realities. So if the dynamics turn around for the better, in favor of Nigeria tomorrow, it means that the country will be all happier for it. All right. Then we have another one here again about Farotimi. It says defamation. Farotimi will go free if he proves allegations against me. That's Chief Babalola. They're talking with two riders for you. One here, the first one here says police slam 12 fresh cybercrime charges on activists. One against unlawful gathering in Ekiti, because we understand protests are being planned across 4 cities, including Lagos, Ekiti, and Abuja, on the 10th. That's on Tuesday. So Global TV will just, as usual, keep an eye out and follow the developments for you. Then one here says, I smoked 14 cigarettes in one day of filming. That's a lot, isn't it? You can find those details on page 13 of the Nation newspaper this Saturday. Why I came out with my cancer by Charlie Boy. That's on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Still, just for the records, Charlie Oputa is in his 70s. He has had a string of controversies. He has always been very unconventional in his approach to life and everything else. But here, he now shares a different story. His cancer. All right, but we hope he gets well and things just starts looking up for him health-wise again. The last headline here says, Yuletide, Dangote marketers seal deal to avert fuel scarcity. Okay, so that's a wrap on for you this morning. We're taking a quick break, everyone. Thank you for this first half of the program. When we return, after this, we'll get our conversations going for you. But we'll start out with Kano, especially with regards to the security factor in the Emirates tussle.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, time to talk about Kano for at least a while. It's been some time since this whole issue started, and for most people, it was just going to be at that time. I mean, some time ago, as storm in a teacup, like they say. That something just be generate some noise here and then it dies out. But obviously, that hasn't been the case. It will appear every time new angle of the entire narrative. Today we understand, for example, yesterday was such that the entire palace was, people say, barricaded. Presidents to say there was no traffic from inside the palace or into it, and we're told also that they get to these points. What is the goal? What is the objective? Because there's a strong security concern around this issue, even though many will argue that, well, it's a politically motivated action. But we're going to come right to that at a different time. We want to focus more on what the security concerns and factors are regarding this development. We joined live via Zoom from Katsina this morning by a security and intelligence expert, Ahmed Yahuza, I should say, who is going to provide us some insights about this issue, just so our viewers can understand not just what has happened, but what exactly some of the aspects of this development are. Mr. Getso, I'd like to say a big thank you to you and happy weekend, first of all. All right. So let's start by first asking, yesterday's issue, I mean, the scenario itself around the Kano, I mean, the palace of the Emir of Kano was a bit dramatic. But we all know, for example, again, that it wasn't a drama, it was a real life situation. Talk to us about how that you wake up on a Friday morning, armed policemen, operatives of the Department of State Services have taken over, as it were, or to use a different term, barricaded the palace of the Emir of Kano. What are those security concerns we should be looking at here?
Discuss the security implication on this. We need to look at it in the four perspectives. One, we need to look at the political perspective. Two, we need to also look at it in respect to judicial perspective. And then three, we need to also look at it at on the historical perspective. And then four, we need to look at it in the context of reality. So now, looking at it in the perspective of the history, well, it is not something new. It is normal because it is more or less issues to do with what do you call it, a family issue. It has no really much to do with issues related to maybe administration, as people may thought of it. It is more or less an internally family issue, because that's why even when I listened to the sermon by the conducted by Sunusi Lamido Sunusi, one of the two emirs of Kano, when he was talking about that government is trying to push the masses into chaos. I don't think it has any relationship with masses. Masses are doing their own business. This is entirely a family issue. That is one. When we look at it on the political perspective, yes, of course, it is a power struggle between the federal government at the center and the state government. The federal government, under the auspice of the All Progressive Party, APC, and then the state government under the auspice of the, what do you call it, state, New Nigerian People Party, whatever. That is called the Konkosia movement. So when you look at the two, I think probably the state government is to some extent becoming a little bit more arrogant because of their inability to, or their inability to listen and to respect the rule of law. And probably the federal government also is playing some, maybe some people, I cannot say the federal government, because I have seen a time when Shatima, the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when he came to Kano at the time, he mentioned the Emir Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, as one of the emirs in Kano. So I think the federal government itself have recognized the fact that, yes, there are two emirs in Kano. That is Aminu Ado Bayero and that of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, since the issue is still before the court of law. So nobody can rule and say that Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is the right emir or the Aminu Ado Bayero is the right emir for now. So looking at it in that is political perspective. But when we look at the context of the present situation, we can say that there is much need for people in Kano. When I say people in Kano, the citizens, especially the philanthropists and the key players of Kano politics, Kano security, Kano community development, Kano business development, Kano policy makers, and everybody that has a say or has a stake in building a better Kano and ensuring that Kano maintain and sustain its position, economic position, population position, security position, peaceful coexistence, and so on and so forth. There is a need for all the elders, especially the elites and the elders, to come together and sit and find a lasting solution before things get out of hand. When we look at it on the perspective of the security, I can say that there are 7 things that we need to be very, very careful with. One, yes, of course, the conflict between the Emir Aminu Ado Bayero and the Emir Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, or let me call their names naked, since I don't have the right to call in each and any of them as Emir. The conflict between the 2 family members, that is Aminu Ado Bayero and Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, can lead or have been taken in another dimension, whereby we could remember there was a time when youths come out in mass and they burn tires and they were shouting and sending stoning against some of the officials of the state government. So, and at the same time, the other part of the party itself that is governing Kano State under the auspice of New Nigeria People Party, that is the Konkosia movement. So I believe so much that we need to be very, very careful. Yes, of course, there is a rule of law, and there was instruction from the court of law that Sanusi Lamido Sanusi should not go to Bichi to set off whatever. And then when we look at it on the other angle, you know, since there is that jurisdiction and it has been placed at the gate of all the gates of the Kano Emirate, I think Sanusi Lamido Sanusi and the Kano Emirate are under his own watch, and that of under the watch of Aminu Ado Bayero, should have respected the rule of law. They wouldn't have gone, he wouldn't have even announced and make any attempt that he was going to Bichi. And then if we look at the scenario also, you know, there was a time, the people, I read a statement which I cannot really, because there wasn't a name assigned to it, that some people are giving warning, and I have been made to understand, based on some discussions I have had with some people off the record from Bichi, that yes, of course, if at all Sunusi Lamido really went to Bichi, the situation could have been out of hand. So I don't really blame and I don't accuse Ore's finger on the security agencies. I think the security agencies have done what they're supposed to do because their own is to find a way of protecting life and property. So I think they were quite right for not allowing, for blocking and putting a bracket at the taking over the Emirates gates, not allowing anybody to go in or come out. Simply because allowing the emir to come out in attempt to go to Bichi. The people in Bichi are ready to kind of create their talks, probably. Probably there are emirate talks, there are political talks, and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't have been an easy, it will have led to losing many lives and property, and nobody even knows what to, maybe it may even get out of control. And this is really, if we will not handle it carefully, it may not really augur well for Kano State, especially the peace that we are the Kano people are enjoying. So it is really going to create a serious security challenge, and it may not be kind of that easy, and that will affect the economy, that will affect the commercial activity, that will affect the peaceful coexistence, and that will create a more dangerous kind of scenario that may not be maybe on control. And as a result of this, it's like we are creating an enabling environment and opportunity for the other insecurity challenges. For the fact that 27 out of 44 local governments of Kano State have been affected by this banditry and other criminal activities. So we need to be very, very careful. I can say 27 have been directly affected by kidnapping and banditry and bandit activities that are across the northwestern part of the country. At the same time, there are other criminalities that has been bedeviling the city itself. The 6 metropolitan LGS, that is the phone snatching, the Kauraye or the Endaba, that is those who normally move with local machetes and the local arms. They will knock at your glass on a traffic. It's normal now. They will knock at your glass and ask you to bring your phone and bring other your possessions. If you refuse to, they will break your windscreen and collect it by force. And nobody has been doing anything. And to some extent, women bags are being snatched. So there are a lot of criminalities coming off, and that has been imagined, especially the issue of drugs consumption and drugs abuse within the 6 metropolitan LGS. So when we look at this, combined by the forces leading to that may lead to a serious chaos, that may lead to a clash between the supporters of Sunusi Lamido Sunusi and the supporters of Aminu Ado Bayero, and the political intergiving that is interfering into the whole issue, then the peace that is being enjoyed by Kano will soon become a history if care is not taken. The Konkosia movement made it very clear, and to some extent, there were some statement credited to some of the leaders of both Konkosia and that of the APC from Kano State, and those who are at the federal level at the hem of the affairs from the indigenes of Kano State who are representing Kano State at the national level. If those statements really credited to them, because I saw those statements on social media, I didn't see them or hear them from the horse's mouth, and I have not seen any signature or name assented by those individuals who are being aligned with those statements. So I'm being really concerned, and I hope the Inwar Jama'ar Kano, that is the umbrella, the shade of Kano people, is a big forum and well-respected elders group, and the Kano leads, which is another strong hold in terms of managing issues in Kano, the Kano discussion cycle, the Kano Civil Society Forum, Kano Business Community Forum, the Kasima itself, and all the other, the forum of the Islamic League, as well as the Northern League and the Northern Nigerian Friends and all other structures in the Northern Nigeria should find a way of finding a way to confine this situation, coming together, work with both Aminu Ado Bayero and that of Sunusi Lamido Sunusi in order to manage this issue as at when due before it gets out of hand.
Thank you for that very brilliant narrative there. But for what you have established now, you obviously have, well, in passing, said that it was just the right move to make, to have security presence at the palace of the Emir of Kano yesterday to avert any breakdown of law and order or breach of the peace, public peace, that is, if the, His Royal Highness, the Emir had gone to Bichi for that scheduled event. And they also talked about, at least largely, about the issue that is political, the NNPP end of phase, the ruling of Progressive Congress at the federal level, the Vice President Kashif Shettima referring very clearly to Emir Sanusi Lamido as the Emir of Kano and things like that. Then before that, you talked about how that this is more of a family issue. And then it raises the question of how a family issue now burgeons to become a political, social problem. But let's leave that aside for a second and ask ourselves, if we say there are court orders, which we know there are, of course, several of them, how is it that we are still having this back and forth? Because the two gentlemen involved, to say the least, are eminently enlightened. So how do we still have this challenge of this conflicts when you would have expected that by now there's already a resolution?
Well, there is a number of adjournments made by the hearing judges at a different time. So one cannot say that there are several reasons. One, there is political forces, which I have discussed. Two, there is a family forces, the division within the family, the ancestors of Bayero or the Fulani clan. So those become divided. Some are pro Sunusi and the others are pro Aminu Ado Bayero. So those who are pro Sunusi Lamido Sunusi, they have their followers, and they are available in 44 local governments and on all the political wards that are in Kano. Those who are also anti-Sunusi Lamido Sunusi are also available to some extent, though it is becoming a more clearer image. It's a very testimonial and it's very open that it is the Konkosia movement that is giving the support, or the NNPP, that is the new NNPP, whatever, the Konkosa party, that is supporting the Sunusi Lamido Sunusi, while Aminu Ado Bayero is getting the support, more of the support, additional support, I can say, because there are many among the family, the clan, the family members, the family heads, and the elders, the youth, and so on, that are also supporting and backing that of Aminu. So it is because of the number of adjournment and a number of appeal that has been made over time. That is why we are unable to kind of see the end of it. I believe so much that there are a lot of legal neurites who are playing a different role in managing the situation. So I think probably we need more of our judicial professors or judicial analysts to discuss and explain more related to, because I'm only looking at it as the perspective of the security, which is my profession. I don't want to go into legal matter because I'm not a legal learned person, so I don't know much about the legal issue. But I believe, in a common sense, I can say that the simple reason is because of the number of appeal and the number of adjournment and the inability of the state government itself. Because the state government has become, to some extent, a little bit arrogant for inability to follow the rule of law. And at the same time, the function of Aminu Ado Bayero are also, to some extent, there is some level of arrogancy for inability to also respect the court order in that regard. So I think if at all, if we cannot, that is why I made a clarion call, and that is why I kind of made a plea for the inward Jama'at Kano, the Kano leads, the Kano discussion cycle, Kano Foundation, Kano community, business community, and Kano civil society, as well as the other forces, even by extension, by calling even on the other areas from all other parts of the country to intervene so that things will not get out of hand, things can be controlled, and then it's something that can be dialogue. I believe that dialogue is the best alternative and the best option to handle this matter, not even legal perspective, because they will continue to pursue the legal rights, because everybody believes that it is right, not a privilege, and everybody believes that after the social judgment, he can make an appeal. And there are 4 rooms for all these appeals here and there. And then I'm calling on the governor, engineer Abba Kabir Yusuf, to kind of find a way of reorganizing his government, so that there will be a kind of dialogue between the state government and the federal government in respect to this issue. If it means bringing the Sultan of Sokoto, or the Chairman Council of Chiefs of Nigeria, the Oba of Oni, of Ife, and all the rest from all the monarchs, the hierarchy from all parts of the country, to come and sit down and reorganize and kind of find a way of making Kano to lose what's to kind of have its lost glory back, because the respect in terms of traditional institution, Kano have really is losing, because it's losing respect, it's losing trust. The masses in Kano have no longer are no longer having any more trust and respect to the traditional institutions, since the family are not really ready to put themselves together to have a dialogue and to have a kind of mutual respect and mutual understanding. And this, by implication, is posing a serious threat. It is kind of creating a social, psychological, political chaos, which may break at any time. We are living in a bombshell, and if care is not taken, anything happens, Kano will be on fire. I'm not praying, I'm not pleading, I'm not making a call, but I believe, based on the analysis I made, and based on the facts and reasons, and the data, the information I'm gathering, definitely, if care is not taken and if necessary ingredients are not put together in order to cement the relationship, in order to fill in the gaps, in order to manage the situation responsibly and through dialogue, it definitely Kano is going to be on fire, and it will be difficult to control if the bomb really breaks.
To wrap it up now, Mr. Getso, this doesn't look like it's going to end just this morning, for instance, because for many people who have followed these developments, they say that it will be hypocritical to remove the political factors, especially as those factors have to do with 2 gentlemen, former governor of the state, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, now the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, and the former governor before him too, talking about engineer Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, wartime principal and deputy governor, now political foes, as they would say, and things like that. You have engineer Yusuf there today, the governor, NNPP platform. Tomorrow another governor comes, for example, let's say a different party altogether. All of these, many pundits believe, will have implications for not just the Kano Emirates, but the entire traditional system, particularly in the north, as we know it. What must we do to forestall all of these, I mean, to disrupt this process from getting any worse than it already is?
Well, the fact of the matter is that if the 2 gentlemen, as you mentioned, Konkoso and Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje cannot come together, then there will never be a peace in the traditional institutions, in the traditional management, in the traditional context, in the traditional appointment, in the traditional pursuit, in the community-driven development activities that have to do with engagement of the traditional institutions. Because it has been made very clear and very open that the two institutions, that is the Konkosia institution and Ganduya institution, which are both the two are political. And I want to tell you, no matter, there is no way you can manage this issue because it has already become an political, institutionalized, political, traditional system that there is no way. When you look at so many changes, like renaming of the Northwest University from Metamasile to Northwest University by Ganduje, and now Northwest University, Metamasile to Northwest University by Konkosia movement, and the powers bestowed on the national chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, and those feelings of Konkoso that he has the control or he is the father of everybody in Kano. So if this arrogance cannot be managed, then definitely the traditional institutions have already fallen, they have lost their lost glory, and it will be very, very difficult to have them separated from the political forces and the political activities. They have already kind of dive into the political river, and they have dived into the politicking. So each and every one of them will now be, the Kano Emirate has now been divided and by these two institutions. And there is no way these two institutions, without these two institutions coming together, there is no way you can manage this issue amicably and peacefully. So it is only, if at all, that is why I requested and I made a plea and I made a clarion call for the Kano discussion cycle, the Kano lead, the civil society organizations, the Inwer Jama'ar Kano, and other structures. There are strong community-driven structures in Kano, and they own Kano, and they should be able to kind of bring the two institutions together, or these two blocks, two forces, the force of Konkosia movement and the force of Gandujia movement, into the dialogue session for each and everyone to drop his own interest and respect the interests of Kano for the purpose of having a peaceful coexistence and maintaining peace, security, and stability in Kano. Otherwise, it is not going to be easy, and it is going to be something else.
I think that's a fine place to tie it up. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Ahmed Yauza Getso, security and intelligence expert, for sharing your thoughts with us on this ongoing development. We do hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so we wrap it up there with that conversation, everyone. We'll take a quick break, and the rest of Global Morning Weekend returns shortly. Do stay with us.
Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
I'm done with Zoom. I want to wrap up the program. Yeah.
South Africans, at least most of them, are now asking for the resignation of President Cyril Ramaphosa. The reason is simple. They say he should resign because he has now announced a 5-year simplified visa process for Nigerians. Now, he announced this on the 3rd of this month, just about 4 days ago, saying that this will help strengthen economic and tourism activities between Nigeria and South Africa. He announced this when President Bola Tinubu was there for the Bi-National Conference, the BNC. And of course, that's part of the conversations many people are now saying will lead to Nigeria's membership of the BRICS, the BRICS, all right, consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, a 5-year simplified visa for Nigerians would mean that access to South Africa for business, for tourism, will become easier. But South Africans are not buying that because they think this will put them at a disadvantage. Already there's a lot happening on social media in terms of the demand for the resignation of Mr. Ramaphosa. But what does this mean for intra-Africa trade? Because this is a time at which many are saying that it's long overdue for Africa, at least all 54 countries, to be integrated in terms of trade, travel, and easy movement. We're seeing two presidents from East Africa, for example, particularly Kenya and Rwanda, say that, look, this should have been the way to go long before now. Ironically, South Africans don't seem to be thinking along those lines. So how much of work does this put in front of leaders across this continent? Well, that question we will find answers to in the days ahead. I'm William Mofrebe. That's our program for you this Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.